negative.
You're listening to the N.W.A, the Nubian Wrestling Advocates.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Yo, it's Righteous Reg. It's a case for the safe, keep a space for the Nubians. Unfiltered, off-kilter, the professor, the godfather. Post-wrestling, the N.W.A, not keep guessing, The views and expressions, you know the rest, it's pod excellence, get the message. Advocates for Nubian wrestling, you're listening to the best again. Black wrestling in the ring we invested in. Nubian kings and queens we invested in. It's for the culture and we reppin' it. It's for the culture and we reppin' it.
And welcome to the N.W.A. Podcast, the Nubian Wrestling Advocates, the show all about getting color in the professional wrestling business. We are back and better than ever. Thank y'all for joining us this Saturday night, the last Saturday in the month of February, the most melanated month on your calendar, ladies and gentlemen. We are so happy to be back. I believe we're live, and if not, somebody will let us know. But the show started. Can't stop the show once it got started. And since we are getting down, we want to let y'all know who we are. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I am the Godfather Nate Milton, aka your favorite podcaster, and I am joined by the advocates. First of all, we got a young brother who is one of the hardest working people in pro wrestling journalism. He is a man that doesn't sleep. This man don't get no rest. He takes no days off. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all give it up for the youngest in charge, my nephew, the good brother, Andrew Thompson.
Brother Nate, brother Kris, always a pleasure to be back on the podcast, man. I'm excited to do it. Happy Black History Month. I'm excited the special guest that will be joining us. I'm sure we're gonna get to that after we introduce that good man Kris.
Oh yeah. You already know, Andrew. We're gonna get into it. And since you mentioned his name, we got to let the people know who else is here. Of course, he's here with us every single month on Post Wrestling. You know him, you love him. Some of y'all hate him, but he don't give a damn about you because Kris ain't about them fisticuffs. As Kris told you on a previous episode, he don't do fisticuffs no more. He gets down in other ways when it comes to self-defense. Kris on that Arn Anderson tip, if you get what I'm saying. So let me introduce the angry intellectual, the mayor pro tem of Los Angeles, California. Make sure you got your WrestleMania plans locked in right now, ladies and gentlemen. He is somebody who they call Moderna Kris. Some people also call him Mimosa Kris, but I know him best as the Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all give it up for Kris Ealy, a.k.a. the Professor. Can we rock? What's up, Doc?
Chilling, man. I'm looking forward to this episode. We had some mishaps last month, but we're back in form. I know Wale and John were like, "What's up with these brothers? Where's the February show?" Right? We on some serious CP time this month, but you know we had to leave you with something. And I hope everyone had a good Black History Month.
Yes, yeah, Black History, you know, it's 24/7, 365, but we must amplify it and magnify it in the month of February. And we do have a special guest. I just received confirmation for those that were wondering. We are not currently live because of technical issues, but we're going to keep it going because at some point in the future, whether it's tomorrow or the day after next week, you're going to see this and hear this. And we going to keep it moving because that's what we do. But let's bring in our special guest, man. We reached out to this brother because we have appreciated a lot of the work that he's done, you know, in the world of wrestling, in the world of music, man. Super producer extraordinaire, I guess we could call him Kris. But and maybe he's the reason, now that I think about it. Maybe he's the reason why, you know, the stream is not being live tonight, you know, because we don't know. We don't know what this brother might say with a live mic in his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you our guest this month, the one, the only, Emilio Sparks.
Oh, that's very, very kind of you to say, but a wise man told me once, never try to F up your money. So keep your opinions to themselves so that way you can continue to chase your bag. So
yes, very, very wise words
Yeah.
indeed, brother. We appreciate you taking out the time, man, to hang with us this month and give some insight on the crazy going ons in this wrestling world. But before we get into that, maybe there is somebody that is watching us for the first time, and maybe they're watching you for the first time, brother. So give a little background about the work that you've done, and what brings you joy right now, man. What gets you excited? What gets you hyped to turn on the microphone?
Oh man, I think it's, to quote Smith & Wesson, it's got to be like the last album, only better. So my thing is, it's got to be like the last episode, but only better. It's that drive. That's the thing that drives me the most, is to turn on the microphone, whether it's me producing or whether me doing the podcast with Mighty Vin and we're doing Wrestle Rap or whatever it is. I always like to do the last thing, but only better. So that's what keeps me going. And I genuinely just love what I do, man. I'm absolutely blessed to call what I do a career, and it pays my bills. So just to get up every day is a privilege. It honestly is. It wasn't like that for a while, but perspective is everything once there was a conscious shift. And here we are now, and I'm getting to talk to you guys on a Saturday night. Life is good, man. I got no complaints. So thank you. Appreciate it.
No doubt, brother. And we were talking before we went live, quote unquote, before we went live tonight about Wrestle Rap, man, and the need for a show like that. So can you speak a little bit on that, man? Because I think you and I and Kris and Andrew, we kind of on the same wavelength when it comes to that.
Well, it's funny because, just thinking about it when you guys were doing your cool intro, I was thinking about how many years we've been doing the podcast now and when Wrestle Rap started and what Wrestle Rap was about. And, at first we were literally, we were probably like the FICA plant in a forest full of trees that were not, wrestling podcasts that spoke to a specific demographic. You know what I'm saying? And then as we cultivated the soil and, we started to give love and attention to the ficus, we grew into this big, strong oak, and big shout outs to Math of Black Wrestling, who said, if it wasn't for Wrestle Rap, y'all birthed a lot of sons in this podcast space. So, that's a cool thing to hear, man, because you sit back and you see all the wonderful content creators now that really didn't exist when Kazim and I first started this podcast. It was very rare to be doing what we were doing. It was very rare to speak from a urban lens. You know what I mean? It was very different speaking from the perspective of a Black wrestling fan with Kazim Famawidi as my co-host and co-creator of Wrestle Rap, because Kaz and I both felt that was a group that was never really they never really had the voice. And we always thought, well, what's up with that? I was telling you guys before, like a lot of our favorite Black performers weren't really getting pushed. And we were like, yo, man, that's what's up with that? Like, can we talk about like certain things? Like, can we talk about how good an individual is and, what's their storyline going to be, or what could they do or what can a company do to start to pay attention to what's going on? Because, the climate was really changing, was really starting to shift. And, now it's great to see, but like 5 or 6 years ago, it was crazy out there. Like there was not a lot of what's going on now. So, to see everything move progressively forward has been great to see. So, that's what we started doing, way back many moons ago. So it's great to see them.
I love it. And I'm gonna, give Andrew and Kris the rock here in just a second. But I feel like, and this is something Kris and I have talked about off mic, because we started this show about 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. And even then, like outside of what y'all were doing, the landscape wasn't there. And it's not that, Black folks weren't watching this critically. It's not that Black folks didn't have a voice or didn't have opinions on this. It's just the outlets, it didn't seem to be were there. And so fast forward to 2023 when, not only you guys, but, we're here. You got Public Enemies. You got, our brothers over at Grapsody. You got people like Rich Fan at The Torch. You got SP3 and True Hill Heat. And it feels like, I don't know how much of this, you would attribute to kind of that pandemic era, Emilio, and just because I feel like that's when a lot of the collaboration started too, where it wasn't just like we got one black show over here, one black show over there. We were working together, and it felt like the start of something.
Well, to me, that's the cool thing to see, because everything. I believe in interconnectivity, and one of the big things that I believe in is community. And if you have the proper community of like-minded individuals who want to push a narrative forward and create something that was not there before you walk through the door, to me, that's huge. You know what I'm saying? And you need that sort of thing. And without community to all have the same voice, sometimes you're just screaming in an echo chamber of one, and the vibrations are bouncing back to you. Mm-hmm. And I genuinely believe that, like during the pandemic, Nate, you're right. Everybody started to realize, if we can just fortify and connect and really rock with each other. And hey, I like what Graham is doing, so I'm going to go on, Black Wrestling. Yep. And then, all the dudes from Black Wrestling to come on Wrestle Rap, and then, what they're doing on Jobber Tears, like let's all connect and let's just hang out and create like a really cool thing, and let's just Wrestling with Keeks, like let's just all like, even from a black female perspective, you know what I mean? So like that is something that like the waters weren't there before, like what I mean, and now everybody's here and we can all like do it together. To me, that's the important thing. It's without community, we ain't got nothing, man. So it's like it's great to see that everybody was like, you know what, I rock what you do. I respect what you do. You come on my show, I come on yours, and let's all hang out and cross promote. Because that's how you start to plant the forest, man. Like it takes that one seed, and then that starts to sprout and take root. Then another tree, and then another tree, and then another tree. And next thing you know, you got this like beautiful like. I'm trying not to curse. Can y'all swear on this or no?
We say no,
but no. You have this beautiful effing forest of just green. You know what I mean? Like we got a good ecosystem. We got a biodome. You know what I mean? Like Pauly Shaw, a platypus, buddy.
That's the first biodome reference on this show, I think.
And it will probably be the last too. You know what I mean? Like. I always thought that movie was great when they asked him, "What's your dream?" and Pauly Shore goes to die and come back as a leotard.
Yeah,
it's such a stupid movie that talks about environmentalism from a completely different lens. Like it's just these two idiots. They get locked in a thing. I'm digressing. I'm sorry.
Billy Baldwin.
Billy Baldwin.
Yeah, but so
what's up?
You have been in a lot of rarefied spaces that a lot of us haven't been in. You've met Vince McMahon. You've worked for WWE.
Yes.
You have interviewed the likes of Redman, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah.
Did you interview Method Man?
Yeah.
Method.
I've interviewed a lot. Yeah, I've interviewed a lot. Yeah.
Like, and how did you? And were you joking? So in your real, like 10 years ago or so, you said you were living in your mom's basement. Was that a work or was that a work or shoot?
No, that's a shoot, man. That was
okay. So how did you get into these spaces? You're living in your mom's basement, but then you're chopping it up with T.I. and you're chopping it up with Method Man. And like, how does that happen, my dude?
Again, community, I was working with a dude, big shout outs to Al Lindstrom. And to get, Al Lindstrom was doing content creation. He was also a radio rep. So, record labels would come to him and he would, work certain records. But also at the same time, too, he was also creating this brand for himself where he was creating this content. And he was, listen, in the world of Two Dope Boys and Nah Rights and, you heard the news and Rap Radars back then, everybody was hungry for content. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was a lot of flip cam stuff going on. And I was like one of the early godfathers of the flip cam stuff too, where that thing went with me everywhere, to SOBs, to, Santos's Party House or whatever on the Lower East Side. So if there was somebody around, I would just grab the thing and I'd be with one of my homeboys. I'd throw the flip cam to him. I'd be like, film this. And then we would just do like that, bum rush kind of thing on the street. Luckily for me, when I said my name, people would be like, "Oh, I saw you on this website. Yeah, cool. Come on, let's chop it up real quick." that's how it first started to grow. And then, you know, you start networking with people and people just, you know, mess with the vibe. And then it got to Sirius XM. And I was doing a lot of back behind the scenes promotion. I was like a in-studio producer, they were calling it. And, you know, I would work on all these really cool shows, man, from DJ K-Slay, R.I.P., DJ Drama, Don Cannon, Tony Touch, Static Selector, Scram Jones, DJ Self, Superstar J, Gray Rizzy, you know, SMS Radio, it was G-Unit Saturdays at the time. I got to board up a couple of times for Big Cap, R.I.P., you know, who else? I'm really drawing a blank because I literally did every Scram Jones. I mean, you name it, I did almost. Sway in the Morning. You know, DJ Green Lantern. Right. If you name it, I did almost every single show that was rap on Hip Hop Nation and or Shade 45 in my 10-year tenure at Sirius XM. And you know, some of them just take a liking to you, and they're like, "Yo," like especially Al Lindstrom when he would fill in for Tony Touch, and he'd be like, "Yo, I want you to, you know, go on the scene. I'm going to set these interviews for you. So interview Logic. Okay, great. Go to Logic's hotel room. The hotel room's no bigger than like a bathroom, and it's like 2 beds in the city. And it's like, okay, can't do it here. What's the quietest place we could do it? Oh, we'll do it in Logic's bathroom. You sit on the toilet. I'm going to sit in the bathtub. And I kid you not, that's what I would do, because I would try to stand out and just be in like these weird positions everywhere. I wasn't a Nardwar where I was going to do the whole gimmick and then give them something and then work around it like that. I was just going to make them be like, hey, I'm going to put you in this odd situation. I want you to improv because I like improv. So let's just go with it. And then I'm going to ask you a series of ridiculous questions. And then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of what we have to promote. And hopefully you like it. And if you don't like it, we'll do another take. But most of the time they were really fun and exciting interviews. And we got to do some really cool stuff with that. But yeah, most of the time, man, interviewing some really, really dope artists in Staten Island, you know, big shout outs to Richmond Hood and my boy Tyreek over there. And they would be like, yo, Redman's here. What's good? All right, I'm coming through. Yo, Method Man's here. What's good? You know, like I was able to help my buddy K-Slack produce a record for More Fish on Ghostface's project because Ghostface went to my gym and I'm listening to, because me and K-Slack, we did a mixtape years ago. I'm talking years ago. And I'm bumping the beats and there's this SUV, you know, windows up, tinted out, you know. I'm just bopping my stuff. I'm waiting for my boy Pat so we can go work out. And then like I'm going through the beats. And then all of a sudden the window rolls down next to me and I hear, you're God. And I turn around and it's Ghostface and the smoke is like, you know, pluming out of the, you know, the window. And he's like, yo, give me that CD. I heard a record I like. And I was like, all right. So I gave him the record and we sampled this song from the Wichita Linemen. And the next thing you know, well, K-Slack sampled it. And then the next thing you know, it's on More Fish, and it's Ghost doing the hook, and it's Sean Wiggs doing the verse. So you know, made a nice little penny off that one, and then it's just networking, man, and that was it for me. I was always like a fan of just being outside, like you know what I mean. Like like you know, there was a time where I was outside. I don't go outside no more. It was a time when I was outside, man. So you know, that's where we at now. That's
gangster, and that's New York, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's such a New York story.
Oh, Kris, I got no shame in approaching somebody to be like, you need to work with me. Here's why. Feel me? Like I got no shame in that. I still do that to this day. I'm gonna be 40 years old in May, and I'll still, you know, pull up in a respectful manner to be like, yo, hey, hi, come here, let's chat for a minute. How you doing? And then, you know, oh, you know this person. Like,
so how did you make your way? I know the story because you've told it to me before, but for our audience, how did you get to WWE? You know, that's I'm sure that's what our folks want to know about is the wrestling, like how'd you get in that space?
It was a combination of knowing that I reached the glass ceiling doing what I was doing at Sirius XM. And I made my peace that if this is it, then this will be my career here. You know what I mean? Like I'm good with it. But then there was this like little voice in my head, seeing all my other contemporaries moving on to do X, Y, and Z, and I kind of was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And Kaz and I were really doing the podcast at that point. And then Kaz got his gig with WWE for a while, and then I had to go. I had to go solo. And I was doing that for a while, and I was interviewing everybody at that point. I was like, you're a wrestler, you're coming on the show. You're a content creator, you're coming on the show. You tweet something funny about wrestling, you're coming on the show. It did not matter to if you had one follower or you had 20,000 followers.
Right.
If you could be that engaging with back then 150 characters, well, then you could be engaging for an hour, and then me and you can chit chat. So that's how that started. So I started to get the attention of certain individuals at WWE in this podcasting space, because a lot of the office, from what I was told, would listen to the podcast, specifically when I had WWE talent on. And then they really started to like it after that. They're like, oh, this is interesting. So like one of the first interviews that really started to get the office's attention was with Giancarlo Dittamo. Now, Giancarlo is probably one of the greatest. I like to call him a director, but he'll humbly say that he does video production. And he was with WWE, and now he's at AEW. And Giancarlo is completely amazing. Like there are things like you can look at a source of light or just a view, and Giancarlo's got the whole thing already mapped out in his brain about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and here's why. So John was always one of my good friends, and I was just like, I just want to hear your story. And at this point, he was doing stuff for GCW, wasn't even part of WWE, and he was just doing this really cool stuff with like 0.99 budget, and he was killing it. He was killing it, and then that got the attention. And Big E was it still is one of my best friends, and he came on the show. And Brody Lee, R.I.P., was one of my best friends. He came on the show, and Cedric Alexander and his wife, Big Swole, they liked the show. They came on the show because it was always this conversation. I wasn't talking about, so this one said this, and this about you backstage, or this is what the 13th is saying. My thing with like specifically, even when I was talking to Swole and Seti, it would be about, so tell me why you guys think, The Five Heartbeats is the greatest movie of all time.
Hold on. I know, now, y'all know me, man. 9 times out of 10, I'm not gonna talk over a guest. But damn it, Emilio, you done brought up a classic, The Five. Can't nobody sing like old Eddie Kane.
No.
Big Red.
Yo, what about business hours 9 to 5?
I use that line from time to time when I don't want to be bothered. I go business hours on 9 to 5 with a ton of exclamation points in the email. But no,
it's 5 horsemen and we got soul.
Right, like Robert Townsend. I met him a while ago.
It's great.
And
underrated.
He swears up and down that Suge Knight got the idea of holding Vanilla Ice over the balcony
from the 5 heartbeats,
because of the 5 heartbeats. Yeah,
5 heartbeats, man.
It makes sense. What they say: the best form of flattery is imitation. You know what I mean? So he probably saw that and was like, "I'm gonna do this to Ice Ice Baby." Because I seen it in the 5 heartbeats. I'm gonna make an homage.
Emilio, I ain't mean to talk over you, man.
This is your show. Are you kidding me? Like,
hey, Emilio, one thing I really did want to ask you though, like it's something that's coming up, like 5 weeks from now is Wale Mania out in Los Angeles, California. I think that's become one of the big staple events for a lot of us in the Black community. And I know y'all invite I know it's like a everybody's invited type of environment, man, but it feels like a sort of a, what's the right word? I don't want to be dramatic and be like safe haven or nothing like that, but it feels like
I know what you mean. Yeah,
it's like homecoming.
It's homecoming. It's homecoming for a lot of friends that we don't see every year. You know what I mean? Like I always make the joke. that this is like, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and Easter all rolled into one,
Right.
so we can all hang out. And it is a special time of year. I mean, we just did the first wave of announcements Wednesday night,
Yeah.
and my phone blew up. My
Right.
DMs blew up, and a lot of folks were like, "Yo, I'm coming." Da, da, da. I'm like, "Great, get tickets." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
did you did you do the? Because I was at the first Wale Mania in the Bay. Were you part of that one?
I showed up. Yeah, I looked around, and me and Kaz were like, "Okay, we gonna start to change this year by year." And I was like, let's do it. And that was it. We started to change it after that. We made it less of a intimate thing, just as like a nice little cash hang, and then it pretty much has grown to what it is. And I feel that, Wale Mania 5, when it was in New York during MetLife, that was the one where it clicked. And it was like, party, this one comes out, pops the crowd, like Samoa Joe coming out. So my name is Ho H to the O, and he's lip syncing the whole thing, right? Like we do that, and who's coming out, and it was Kofi Mania too.
Yes.
So that was a huge moment for us, because the New Day were very, very vital in my WWE like career.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I would probably be anywhere to a degree without those brothers opening up some doors, allowing me to walk through. You know what I'm saying? Brody Lee as well.
Because the first time I saw you was some years ago, and you were interviewing Big E. And this
was it Complex?
I think it was Complex.
Yeah, it was Complex. It was I know exactly what. So Complex did a couple of they asked me to do a couple of things. Big shout outs to Joe LaPuma. He's like, Paisan, I need you to do a couple things. I was like, what do you want me to do? He's like, interview anybody you want from WWE, figure it out. Like,
okay,
and then bring a camera crew. We'll write it off. Do you? Cool. So I hit up, and he's no longer there, but this great publicist by the name of Al Stravola, right? And I tell Al was a dear friend of mine at the time. And then I'm like, hey, Al, I want to interview somebody that doesn't get a lot of media attention, but somebody that can be a chiacchierone. In Italian slang, that means just somebody that can talk. And I'm like, who can we set up? And he was like, oh man, I think you and Big E would get along. And I think this is like right after he lost the Intercontinental Championship, and they just started doing the New Day vignettes.
Okay.
And they would switch from that blue and silver gear to the red black with like a little bit of like green piping gear. Right. And I'm like, great, let's do it. And there wasn't a lot of information on E at the time. There wasn't. And the only thing that Al fed me was his dad is a preacher. He was not allowed to listen to anything non-secular. And his dad would destroy all of his hip hop CDs. And I was like, great. I ran to a record store on Staten Island that still sells records, and I bought him 36 Chambers. And I gave it to him as a gift. I used to give 36 Chambers to a lot of interviews that I used to do, because to me it's a real pivotal album. You know what I mean? It gets none greater. We could talk hip hop if you guys want, but to me that's the album. And again, I might be waving the flag for Staten Island because I'm born and raised here, but the 9 prophets from Shaolin, they changed the world as far as I'm concerned in terms of sound. And then we started from there. We were supposed to have like 15 minutes, and a couple of PR people were there, and then they just started to enjoy it, and they all started to leave, and then me and him were there for an hour. And then I was like, hey, listen, man, here's my number. You ever want to chat? You ever want to hang out? Because we were talking about everything. We were talking about Flatbush Zombies. We were talking about what other things that he was listening to, like Blue in Exile, Below the Heavens, which it's probably as far as like a duo friendship favorite album together, it's probably that one. And him and I talk about Below the Heavens all the time. And we would just talk about verses and whatever, and how good, they are as a producer, MC combo. And we started talking from that day on. It was a Monday Night Raw. And then you fast forward maybe 10 years now, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. time is a weird thing. It really doesn't
Right.
exist, but it does at the same
Yeah.
time. Like
Especially the last 3 years.
Yo, Nate, we put an emphasis on time, but that some bitch just continues to walk the straight line. Does not waver. We waver
Right.
in and out of the time loop, but it just continues to move on. And him and I we talk every day. I literally was just talking to him before this. We were watching the Tatiana Suarez De La Rosa match on UFC together. We were talking about that. So literally was just got off the
So I got a question for you about Big E, but before that, you know, I feel like we're gonna get on a lot of tangents tonight, Emilio, because you keep
big tangent guy. Big tangent.
Things like the 5 heartbeats, things like the greats in the history of hip hop. So I'm just gonna ask you real quickly, who, in your opinion, your esteemed opinion, Emilio, is the greatest rapper alive, and why is it Andre 3000? Go.
You know, I would genuinely believe that there was a large portion for many years.
Are you on mute?
I think I might have muted Emilio. Because I felt some 3-stack slander coming on, so I might have muted Emilio's mic.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He's
got him back,
muted
Nate?
again.
Here we go. We got him. We got you back, Emilio.
There you go.
No, there is no 3-stack slander because make your mama proud. Take that thing 2 sizes down. Come on now.
Walk it out.
Walk it out, man. Come on. Every Valentine's Day, I'm listening to Valentine's Day. You know, like
right.
Yeah, was it 2
it
years ago or 3 years ago where he dropped that random verse on that Anderson .Paak?
And everybody went crazy because here's the thing with him. He's so good. And if you look back at what they were doing with like Atlanteans and even earlier stuff, he was real rapidy rap bars, Atlanta street, candy paint, like that was what he was doing. And then then what happens is when you date a
Erykah Badu,
a third eye open woman who changes your world. I like to call it the Erykah Badu paradox, where once you step inside
you are not
of that
same.
world,
You're a whole new man.
You are forever changed. This is a woman that said that she's selling incense to for her vaginal smells, and this is it takes a special type of man to date a special type of woman, and they were two peas in a pod. And by Stankonia, he's wearing turbans and leather wrist cuffs, and he's wearing balloon pants, and he's shoulder pads, and he's looking like a member of LOD. And he's and he's coming out, and he's putting insignias on his chest, and he's wearing makeup and wigs, and it was so different at the time when hip hop was supposed to be like mean mugging, and what Dre was what Big Boy was doing.
Right.
So but there was a great juxtaposition with them where they played off of each other, which is why I think songs like bum 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 bum.
Oh yeah, Spodio de Dopalicious.
Damn. So it was you can hear it on stuff like that where he was trying different similes and metaphors and rhyme patterns, and he was breaking away from the typical urban patois and really going into this uncharted territory of clothes and influence, and to the point where Speakerbox and The Love Below came out, his inspiration for Hey Ya was the Flaming Lips, and then Hey Ya just blows up and it's this massive success, and then there's Roses and several other songs on the album that made that album win Grammy of the year.
Ghetto Music. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites.
The whole thing. So to see that was really dope, and just to continue on that wavelength, I think it's difficult, and you become not obtuse, but you become distant from the Matrix, and you need to unplug. Now, granted, it's been over a decade, and now he comes in and dribs and drabs and surprises people. I think everybody's still fixated and waiting on, because they want to be satiated with that Andre 3000 verse. I'm also looking for a cell phone charger.
I call Andre the Black Easter Bunny, because he only show up about once every year. But when he does, you know you're gonna get something good. So like when I heard that "Come Home," the track by Anderson .Paak, and 3 Stacks just appears on, I'm like, damn, like he still got it, but he ain't gonna give it to us all the time.
Yeah,
bro. Like, when we talking about music and we talk, like, I know Nate, you mentioned like the greatest rapper alive right now, like. You know what I'm saying? I was born in 96. So like when I'm thinking about my greatest rapper of all, like present day right now, like that I could say.
Yeah.
Go ahead, show Soulja Boy some love. We ain't mad.
I ain't talking. Wait. We ain't talking about Big
Come
Soulja.
on, man.
We ain't talking about Big Soulja. They got jokes, man. But if I had to say the greatest rapper alive right now, I would have to say for me it'd be Lil Wayne. I think that's probably my my favorite rapper.
I'm not gonna
anybody's name.
Yeah,
you will.
I'm not going to argue that either because the proof is in the pudding. I mean, there was 3 summers where it was all Lil Wayne, and Lil Wayne was making everybody's feature better. You know what I mean?
Man,
like, and this was right as like the Carter 3 was coming out. You know what stood out to me the most, and I always liked, you know, how can you not love Weezy F Baby? But what stuck out to me was the track "Shooters" with Robin Thicke.
Yeah, that was fire.
It was complete fire. And I was like, okay, I see where he's going with this. I like what he's doing. Great. Now what does he do? And then the I Feel Like Dying record that he did.
Right.
Do me a favor, plug this for me. The I Feel Like Dying record was the one that really stuck out to me because that's when like the druggy rap really started. He's the godfather of it. Let's keep it a buck. I don't think you get
that's a fact.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like when it comes to like Xanax and syrup bars and, you know, all those other things, like opiate rap belonged to Lil Wayne. You know what I mean? It has so forth. The crown has switched several times over, but in the beginning, he was the reason why, you know, opiate rap was what it was. But then also too, you knew you were going to get a fire verse the moment you heard the lighter flicker on any feature you were getting.
You knew it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Real quick, like just a point on what Becky back on what Emilio was saying, like with the track of Robin Thicke. I think one of the things that really stood out to me early in Wayne's like his entire catalog, I think was when he did that song with what was that dude, Kevin Rudolph? Like he did the like Let It Rock.
Yeah.
Let It Rock.
That was so different from like most of the stuff that he did. It was like a nice little, like it was just a nice little diversity to Wayne's overall catalog, and I think that really like
I don't know what it was about this song.
I never vested in rock music. Like that's not really my thing, but I can listen to it and like I can tell you what I think a good rock song sounds like, if that makes sense. And like with Lil Wayne, like I felt like that was like one of the I don't know what it was about that song, bro, but I always enjoyed that song. And like ever since I heard that, I've always been like sort of interested in the rock sound in terms of what I think a sound of that particular genre can sound like. And like just continue speaking on Lil Wayne, I think one of my favorite projects of his is No Ceilings, the mixtape, bro. That is like on top of that, that whole list, that whole track list is one of the best. Whatever he freestyling, you know, whether he wrote it down freestyle, whatever he did, I think that is when back at Wayne catalog. I think that would be you got to put that top 3 in terms of like what he did on that entire track list. Like that was crazy. I
would also think the Drought series and the Dedication series were great. Sorry for the Wait was really good. You know, T Wayne, the collaborative mixtape he did with T Pain was great. Even recently with Rich the Kid, I even like what he did with that. What's that mixtape called? Trust Fund Babies. So like, you know, he's got some Gangsta Grills in there too. So he's a real diverse MC. And when he said, you know, best rapper, dead or alive, you know, like he really meant it because he really did for several years put hip hop on his
He's in
back.
the conversation.
He has to be, you know what I mean? Like, so.
Hey, Emilio, let me ask you.
What's up?
Emilio, let me ask you this: like, when you're looking at modern day rappers, like this current generation, who would you say is at the top right now? Like, as far as somebody who has a unique sound, somebody that has like sort of captivated the masses in a way, or maybe not even captivated, maybe they just are sort of on their way up, but you feel like they they're gonna snatch the crown one day? Who is the person that can come to mind? Just off the top, I know like you.
Well,
yeah, you good.
No, it's you know, I said this when he dropped years ago, and I'm gonna say it now. I believe it was Uzi Vert because you know the guy's coming out on the Grammys, and this is all he's doing. I just want to rock. You know, and I'm seeing people in the crowd, and then you know, listen, man, I'm old. I'm not listening to.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I you know, my cutoff to be like. My cutoff was, you know, everything from probably like 2015, anything new like that. I'll listen to it and I'll peep. But I got my guys.
Like if I hear it on NBA 2K, I'll check it out.
Listen, I got my guys. Like I got Freddie Gibbs. I got Currency.
Yeah.
I got Casey Veggies. You know what I mean? Like we have Odd Future. Like that was like the last time that I was like, this one's next. This one's that. This one's this. But man, you know, dudes like him. Another one would be like Trippie Redd, all the NBAs, all the new little
all the NBAs,
all the NBAs, all the babies, either you know
Future.
The Future. Well, Future's always been, you know, the Papa Ametrius of Mellow. You know, harmonic, you know, synthesized like music.
Drop the coldest verse on the Black Panther soundtrack.
Absolutely. You know, it's one of the things that I used to write in Valentine's Day cards with girls that I would date. It's my grandmother's love that makes me like, you know, like that stupid verse that he was doing. You know, so you know, it's things like that. But yeah, I think what you're seeing now is, you know, again, like all like any little baby, big baby, a medium-sized baby, like all the babies, all the babies. Moneybagg Yo to me is that dude. You know, I also thought, you know, like Young Dolph, R.I.P.
Man,
Young Dolph.
Emilio, talk to him, man. Talk to him,
literally, man. And it's so at PNB Rock too. They were just tapping into, and they were great. But they were just tapping into that next chapter. Like, you know what I mean? Like they were outgrowing all the stuff that they were talking about previously. Their lives were changing. They were still staying and navigating in a world that maybe like money causes hate. So they should have like pivoted out of that quickly, you know, but like they wanted to stay true to the source and stay tapped in. And unfortunately, their lives were taken at a very young age, but they were just starting to come into their own lyrically, where they were getting out of that whole mumbly, you know, weird, you know, double, triple thing. And like, you know, there was more substance and there was more teaching and there was more knowledge being dropped.
Storytelling.
You know, like a lot of storytelling, you know, talking about a lot of political activism, you know, like these were things that still to this day, if you're not like Kendrick or, you know, or older kids will be like KRS or whoever, like, you know what I mean? Like young 16, 17-year-old kids aren't really trying to listen to, you know, progressive rap about what's going on in the current, you know, infrastructure of the government, you know, and you can see the switch that was going from and where they were going with their writings, you know, to a degree. They would drop some bars and then they would pull back because they never wanted to alienate their audience, but you knew it was there and you knew they were growing. Like they were moving up to what they were going to do there to, you know, to their Pimp a Butterfly. I genuinely believe it would have happened, but it would have been their own unique spin. I think Dolph would have put his own unique spin on it. And I like Dolph. Dolph came up to Shade 45 several times, man. He was always super cool. You know, he used to rock like a lot. So I used to, I didn't know dude, but like, you know, sitting there and listening and, you know, having quick little conversations while we're playing music or whatever. He just seemed very, very nice. And he seemed more in tune to what he would lead on. And again, it's all gimmick. You know, you got to sell your gimmick. But I think we would have seen some really, really dynamic stuff from Young Dolph and I think PNB Rock as well. So
my favorite Dolph project, like out of everything, I think if somebody asked me to like recommend a project from Young Dolph, like that summarize what I thought that his sound was and what I thought his best work was Thinking Out Loud, that came out in 2017. Like I feel like that was his best project overall. And like when we talking about some of the modern day artists, like how Emilio was just talking about, I think two of my favorites personally. One of them is a dude from DC. named Light Show. I don't know if y'all ever heard of this dude. He more so local. Like I don't think he really broke out yet. Like he been rapping for a long time, and I think dude one of the coldest artists, like best storytellers. Like I'm a big fan of rappers that can tell their life experience in a story. Like I'm like really interested in that type. Cause like I had my little phases when I, you know what I'm saying, when I like listen to dudes, you know, you talking about you doing this and you doing that, and you know, saying you all about here and doing, you know what I'm saying? Like that's cool. But like after a while, I started getting invested in hearing people's stories and hearing the progression in their music. And I think another rapper that sort of like really symbolizes that. I don't know if y'all heard this dude either, but G Herbo. Like I feel like that's right now, that's probably my favorite rapper. I feel like in like when you go back and you look at something like his first project, Walk on the Phaso Land, and you hear what he rapping about to where he at now with his latest project that just came out last year, the progression in his music, like it shows throughout the life experiences that he's had. Like now, dude, like a father, and like his whole music voice didn't change. Like he talking about like, you know, like Emilio was just breaking it down, like, you know, put progression, you know, how to, you know, his perspective from the world as a black man, you know, growing up in the streets and doing this and doing that, and how he want to, you know what I'm saying, his kids more involved, like in like his lyrics and stuff like that, and his sound has completely changed as he's grown as an individual. So I think that's like some of my favorite artists right now, and like in terms of like in terms of like the way I like hearing my music now, I just like hearing the more storytelling part and hearing the artists progress as the years go on and not be stuck rapping about the same thing.
Right. Well, what made me pay attention to Young Dolph was, you know, first you listening to like Paper Route Campaign, right?
Yeah.
That's his first one, right?
Yeah.
Then you fast forward, and to me it was like East Atlanta, Memphis with Gucci Mane. That made me pay attention because Gucci is an island onto himself.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So if you could hang with Gucci and do the thing with Gucci and make it palatable to a dude from New York who's now by this time in his early 30s, and this stuff's not resonating because I'm not like in that 16 to 24 demo anymore. Right. And you're making me go, oh, this is hard. Okay, now I'm going to follow you and I'm going to bump a lot of things that you did. And I like 16 Zips. I love shitting on the industry. I loved what was the other one, man? He literally, it was a 2017 release. What was it? I should remember this.
What was it when I did you talking about
no, because it was no, I'm thinking of what did he call it? Gelato, because I was thinking what was the Italian ice cream? He did that one. Gelato. Okay. Right. You know, but that's man, those are some of the dudes that I really was paying attention for. And then there was just a lot of underground cats too that deserved to be out of here, you know, and but again, you know, SoundCloud rap was huge back in the in the early aughts, you know.
It was a season.
Hey, real quick, Emilio. Real quick, Kris. Emilio, hey, what you think about like I don't even know how to say the word, the posthumous projects? Like, what do you think about those? Like because sometimes I feel like they don't fall flat, but sometimes it's I don't know what it is that sometimes it don't necessarily hit for me. Like hearing like
I couldn't hear you. What did you say? The post what?
Posthumous projects. Like I don't know if I'm saying the word right. Like like
the posthumous projects.
Posthumous project. Yeah.
You know, man, it's kind of like what happened with like Tupac and Big, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like they were unfinished projects, and like Changes, for example, was like an unfinished Tupac song that they just took a second verse from and just did, as I like to call it, studio magic, you know? I really didn't like anything off the Biggie duets thing.
I didn't either.
The only song that I really liked, was Eminem and Biggie with Dead Wrong. And that's because, you know, Eminem just murked that verse. The 7 different levels of devil worshiping, horses' heads, human sacrifices, cannibalism, candles, and exorcism. That's rabbity rap all day, you know?
Yes.
And then you have, you have Big, you know, when I get dusted, I like to spread the blood like mustard. Trusted, my hardcore rain leaves you blusted. Move over, Lucifer, a more ruthless, you know, it was just like for, you know, I think given the gravitas of what M had to do and how lyrically sharp Biggie was, and you never really, again, he only had 2 albums, and the course of hip hop with that man in the whole shiny suit, opulence thing. Like hip hop
Yeah.
and jewelry and liquor
Yeah.
was always there, but Big took it to another level. And I think that was the blueprint for guys like Jay to see and Dame Dash to see, to be like, okay,
Right.
they were wearing gold,
Yeah.
we're going to wear platinum. They were drinking
Yeah.
this, we're going to drink Cristal.
Yeah.
And we're gonna pick up where Big and Diddy left off with this.
Right.
But those posthumous runs, man, I don't know, man. They just weren't. They didn't hit for me. They sold well for Tupac.
Right.
I mean, they sold exceptionally well. The biggest what if one, if the songs were actually taken care of, was the one with him and Duck Down. Like Boot Camp Clip.
Cool.
That was always one. Like they like had snippets leak or here, there, or whatever. But Big loved Smith and Wesson. Big love Tupac loved Smith and Wesson. Tupac loved Buckshot. So, and this is at the height of this East Coast West Coast beef. So for them to be Switzerland, but to dabble into both really said something about how good Duck Down was as a label and how good Duck Down were as just rappers and businessmen, because they literally were they stayed the middle path, and the music speaks for itself. So
Well, here's the thing, Andrew. Well, real quick, Kris, because Andrew is the best teammate, and sometimes he don't even know how good a teammate is. Because we running on this court with Emilio. We didn't go on here, we didn't go on there. We started, before we got into hip hop a little bit, by me saying we was going to talk about Big E. Andrew brought us back by asking a question about Big E, and so that brings us back to
Segue
Big
King.
E.
Segue King.
Out here like Andrew out here like John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas in his prime, giving the assists. So I appreciate your nephew. But speaking on Big E, because I think this touches on what we were talking about before the show, Emilio, because we all love, like everybody on this show loves that brother and loves what the New Day have meant, not only in the wrestling business, but for the culture. Yeah. But watching his run as champion, that was something where it's like,
let's go. I can talk about this all day. I can talk about this all day.
But it's like, damn, they did not know, or at least it seemed as a viewer, that they did not know what they have in this man, Big E, because if you position him right and let him cook, everybody gonna eat.
Right. And I wanted to say this, Emilio, because that Big E interview that you did with him for Complex was the first time I was like, this guy could be doing so much more than what he was doing at the time, because I think he was like doing something where he was Dolph Ziggler's heavy. That thing was, I don't want to say it was beneath him, but it was like, it wasn't show.
Well, I mean, that was his call up, that was his call up. And, you're gonna, you're hyping it up and you're getting ready, and then you smash the sternum of a young AJ Lee. And sell it, but you see the fear and terror in his eyes, like, oh my God, did I just cave in this girl's chest? And she's just playing it off like it's nothing. That's when I knew bruh was special then, and I think bruh is special now, and he'll continue to be special. Where I think he did cook and where I think he did thrive, and when you look back on E's championship run, I think you'll look at it in terms of what he did outside of the ring and what he did for media and being a spokesman for the company. One, not only as the World Wrestling Entertainment Champion, but what he did as a black man in that company, I think speaks volumes, because at that time, guys like Brock and Roman, Cena, they were doing a different type of interview. Guys like Drew and Bobby weren't really doing large media runs, but E did them all. E did the Breakfast Club. E was on the Breakfast Club talking about the plight of a black man and mental health. E was going on Hot 97, talking about, systemic racism. He's going on, other black content creator outlets and talking about situations in regards to George Floyd and everything else that's going on in this country. So when we look back at Big E's run, you might say, okay, the in-ring stuff didn't have a chance to grow because I think they made the decision because at this point they were trying to just work towards or pop a rating because AEW was doing some really good ratings at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, well, if anything you can do, we can do better. And had they actually fleshed out a proper storyline with the briefcase for him, we probably could have had an incredible magic moment. Him being world champion is a feather in the cap of the company because they did trust this man, because what this man was able to do with his two partners, outsell John Cena at a WrestleMania in terms of merchandise, unheard of. But what he did outside of the ring in terms of presentation and media and looking the part and speaking the part, and he is, to me, his title run is greater than great because it's what you, as a champion, it's what you do outside of the ring.
Right.
That cements your legacy. You know what I mean? You won't be able to tell me, what his best WWE title defense was. But you can tell me when you go back and you can watch all these interviews that this man was speaking on things that wrestlers don't really speak upon.
Right. Yeah.
Kris, it didn't feel forced where it was like, oh, because he's black, he has to be the black voice of WWE.
Right.
No. This is the stuff that he chose to talk about because he was given the platform and he wanted to show that wrestlers are not just big meatheads, but they actually have brains. They know
not just big meaty men slapping meat.
Right.
And not just big meaty men slapping meat.
Yeah. And the thing I love the most about Big E and a lot of the black wrestlers in WWE during that time, especially before he became champion, when that audio tape of Hulk Hogan came out where he's just saying like all kinds of just racist stuff that was in his heart. This wasn't like the N-word in passing, like I said the N-word in a rap song. My bad.
It wasn't a casual N-word.
Yeah, this was like stuff.
Oh, he dropped the hard R. It wasn't the A. He was dropping the R.
And he was dropping the R. And
red and yellow was dropping the R, man. I was like,
and he was like, if my daughter's gonna date an N-word, at least have it be a rich N-word and all this stuff. But what I loved about Big E and those people is like there were so many of the old guard black folks in WWE that were just like very, very quick to forgive this man and be like, oh, Hulk Hogan isn't like that, and this and
he was never racist to me.
And Big E and Kofi and Titus and those cats, they just were not having that. They weren't like, oh, you could just come back into the fold and we'll just be nice to you and stuff. They expected a lot more out of them, and I think that's kind of like part of Big E's legacy that needs to be highlighted more, because and it put WWE in a position to where they have to kind of like
navigate and learn, and they also have to learn and understand like the importance of race and understand and know their audience as well, and be guided by the metrics of that as well. Have they worked towards and took proper steps to change that? Absolutely, they have.
Yeah,
but it takes a while, and there's a learning curve when like there are certain individuals in play there that are old. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
And it's rough, not to say that anybody is any way or has any ill mentality, towards a sector of individuals. Not saying that, but like the world is rapidly changing, and you have to learn and understand that there is more than just an audience that looks like this. Paying for your product. And guys like Hulk Hogan forever ruined his legacy. He's not invited to the cookout no more. He can't
even pull up and get a plate.
No, he can't get the plate. Like nobody's serving him Patti LaBelle's pecan pie. Like he's coming. Like you ain't eating Patty's cobbler now. Like you can't do that. Like No, like you know what I mean. You're not sitting there and Medea's been cooking these greens all day. Like, you can't eat the greens. Like, who are you?
Is that a?
Hey, like I think when I'm looking at Big E's like his title run, like I think
I thought it was great.
I thought talked about that was very important. Was the with ring stuff. I mean, we had plenty of discussions about in this podcast about like Big E's title run and what we thought about it.
Andrew, your audio is being funky at the moment.
That's terrible. He jamming Andrew's signal.
Red and yellow don't want to hear this conversation right now. So red and yellow is messing with Andrew's
control card.
That's it. Here's something that I
Terry Belay in the way.
Yeah, Terry Belay.
You got you off, nephew.
He got you.
Oh no, you go, Emilio.
Let's see. So go ahead.
No,
go ahead. I want to hear your point. No, I want to hear your point, bro. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I'm all good. I'm all good now.
Yeah, we can hear you, Andrew.
We're here now. Yeah.
I'm behind. Okay.
You said you feel like you're behind.
So
damn.
With Biggie.
All right.
Damn.
We're gonna have to.
Oh my goodness.
That's all good. That's all good.
Andrew, switch to Andrew. Use the hotspot on your phone.
Yeah. All right.
So put the hotspot from your if you're on your computer, if you're using a laptop, go to the if you're using a Mac, then just switch to a hotspot on your phone and then link it to your computer. So that way you get a good you'll be fine.
Look at this. Look at this. This man came on as a guest and he's still producing, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Emilio Sparks
it's bad, Nate. I hyper fixate because I recently just got diagnosed with ADHD at my late 30s going into my 40s, and I'm like, it makes sense.
Real quick though, while Andrew takes care of that, I haven't done this in a while, Kris. But I figured, it is Black History Month. I figured, we do have a special guest with Emilio. So I haven't broken out my list in a long time, Emilio. But when we first started the NWA podcast, and Andrew was either our first guest or our second guest on the show, I broke out my list of the 5 categories of characters that Black performers are allowed to play in the WWF/WWE, at least in my experience as a fan.
Oh, God.
Because there are only 5.
Okay.
This is historical.
Okay.
So there are 5 categories, and they are as follows. Number 1, angry Black man.
All the time. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, happy-go-lucky Negro.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see it. Yes. I see what you're doing.
Number 3, old school stereotypes, pimps, preachers, savages.
Yes.
Number 4, new school stereotypes, thugs, rappers, athletes.
Yes.
And of course, Andrew's favorite, Emilio, is the 5th category, and that of course is athletic Black dude with no backstory whatsoever.
Right.
Just come in and do some flips, dog.
Yeah.
But you see that in all of wrestling, though. You don't just see that and I think that's the problem, right? Like you don't see that in professional wrestling. Like, you know who I think is one of the really dopest performers out right now, and somebody who is probably one of the best signings for AEW in 2022. It was Swerve Strickland.
Love it.
Right.
Love
yeah.
it.
And and I and Swerve are really cool, like friends. He literally was in Staten Island this weekend, and we shot the Wrestle Rap hoodie that I'm gonna be selling soon. Unseasonably warm weather this winter. I'm probably gonna get stuck with all of these things. What a shitty businessman. But
hey, it's an early Christmas present.
Early Christmas present. Come and get you one right now. $50, whatever. But what I think was great for him, and he understood the metrics and the importance of optics, right? And how he wanted to change that. He was the rapper character in Hit Row in NXT to what we see now, where he became this dastardly villain that turned Keith Lee gray, and
right.
And what you're seeing with him and Rick Ross, and the match output has been incredible. His promo skills, I think people really weren't paying attention to, and now they're listening to him. When they debuted him, you heard the crowd go, "Whose house? Swerve's house." Like the crowd really knew who he was, and I think it was off to the races from there. You know, you want to talk about a thriving tag team division in All Elite Wrestling. You can look at it as they've had the Young Bucks, they've had the Lucha Bros, they have had Kenny and Hangman, and they have had the Acclaimed, and they had Swerve in Our Glory. And you know, the last like sector of that where they were trading the belt back and forth between like the Bucks and FTR and, you know, so on and so forth. And then it gets to the Acclaim, and the Acclaim became, again, 2 black performers, you know, one openly gay. And it was something that, you know, wasn't seen in professional wrestling before, you know, like, to a degree. And the crowd just fell in love with the Acclaim. And then the crowd also, you saw the double turn happen in the most organic of ways. You know, everybody loves Swerve in Our Glory. But then they, like, it was because of the doing with Swerve, he was starting to make you hate the duo. And then it comes to this with the Acclaim. And then when they won the tag team championships at Grand Slam, the mission was complete. Now you had Swerve as the heel, and now you have Keith as like this moral conscience for him. Like, no, you can't do this. Then it comes to Revolution and the rematch, and Swerve has the pliers, and he wants to break Caster and Bowens' fingers, and Keith stops it, and it's like, wow. Storytelling, man. Like, so to me, like, Swerve is great. And then you have somebody else like EJ and Duca, who is still relatively new to the game with 23 months in. He was an NXT prospect that got released during the budget cuts. Then he goes to Major League Wrestling. That's where I learn of him, and I start working with EJ because I was a producer at MLW for about 10 months. And you know, to me, he stuck out because he was everything. He wasn't everything that Nate, you just ran down with that list of 5, right?
Right.
Like to me, what's great about a guy like EJ and Duca was, yes, you could take like bits and pieces of big athletic black guy, preacher, sometimes can be angry, sometimes can be happy. But what EJ is he's just EJ. He's a vibe. Same thing.
A three-dimensional person.
They are a vibe, but they also know and understand the importance of optics.
Right.
And a lot of performers, not even just black performers, white performers don't even understand the importance of optics. And you have to remember, like, the optic is everything. Optic is the reason why you stand out and you get our attention. So we spend our money on you and we watch you. You can have a great match and do all the moves and do all the flippy doos and topes and Canadian destroyers you want, or you can work a headlock for 25 minutes. And if you don't say a word or you don't have a cool optic, why are we investing in you? And guys like EJ, who would use, like, you know, Bible references and speak in a parable of Christ when he would want to talk about, you know, the violence he was going to inflict on somebody on MLW television, was something that I always thought was so fascinating. And to help him, like, really work on that, and to see him grow and to see him shine to where he is now, where, you know, he had a banger against Takeshita on Dark. It's just, you know, like, you see it and you're like, optic is everything. Myron Reed, another fantastic performer. You know, Trey Miguel, Chris Bay, even, and I know he really does not like to talk, but you have a guy like Jonathan Gresham, who I think is going to dethrone Josh Alexander at one point to become Impact World Champion.
Right. So what do you think, like, because Tony Khan's been in the news a lot, and this was one of the things that I was kind of talking to you off air about, but the Tony Khan situation with Ariel Helwani, I thought that just kind of turned into something that it didn't need to turn into. But and this has always been my argument, and I don't think AEW is a bad show. But
I don't think so at all.
But my problem with them at the current moment, I have to make this clear for the people that listen to us, because they will come for us. So, but my whole thing is this: is like, I don't think WWE's programming is perfect at the moment, but they've got one very, very, very
the bloodline is fire though.
Yeah, that's lifted, that's rising the tide for everybody else. And I think that every time something like that even comes close with AEW, they just go back to doing a status quo show. Their shows aren't bad, but there's not one thing on AEW television that I feel like, oh, if I miss this, I'm gonna regret it, you know, or if I don't see this live, then I'm gonna like like the bloodline stuff is something like, you know, like look what it's done just for like Sami Zayn,
right? But that
Rhodes.
also, but that's been, you know, we've been programmed to think it's great because it is great. But again, it's by design because it started all the way back at the Thunderdome.
Right.
Yeah.
So but that's where the whole bloodline thing started. It started with Roman fighting his cousin.
Yeah.
Right. And
then it becomes what it is now. Now, I might turn off a certain sector of your fans where I don't think all the time nuance in professional wrestling needs to be the thing.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes I agree.
I think sometimes you can go out there and do the thing, do the match, hit the moves, make everybody go home happy, because there's only two things that we remember in professional wrestling. And this is what I would tell my guys and girls that I would produce. They remember your intro and then when the bell rings.
Yep.
Right.
A match is a match and a promo is a promo. Go out there. They're interchangeable, kiddies. Just make it make sense. And sometimes... I gotta. Let me just flesh this point out because I'm thinking as we're speaking. And sometimes I don't think AEW won't flesh out certain things.
Yes.
I don't. Wow, that was an aggressive.
That was emphatic, bro.
Because that's what I'm getting at. Because
like,
I'm like, okay,
I get you.
I'm looking at Ricky Starks from a couple months ago, and we were all here like, wow, what is Ricky Starks gonna turn into? And they've gone. Like, he's been downgraded from the point where he got that fire ass promo on MJF, and I'm like, what in the fuck is going on?
All right, Kris, here's what I need you to do. Here's what I need you to do first. Take a breath, relax. Well, Woosah. I get it. I think the best way to describe it, right? And I see your point, and it makes total sense. Think about it like this, right? You put a pot of water on the stove. Right. And now it's bubbling, right? Mm-hmm. And there's been several times where Ricky is bubbling. That water, you can't even put your hand in. It's coming off the bone, right? The skin is just going to melt.
Right.
But then what happens is you take the pot off, and now the steam starts to come, and it just simmers down again. Then what happens? You need somebody else again. Oh, Ricky cuts a promo. People start to pay attention. Now we're going to put the pot back on the stove. Now a little bit of the water is gone now. Now it's bubbling again. You do nothing. You take the pot off the stove again. Eventually what happens now is that water is starting to evaporate, and you're not going to have your crowd so fully invested in a guy like Ricky Starks when he should be one of your guys. He should be like one of the guys. The thing that I think AEW is a great roster. I think everybody there wants to do the thing, right?
Right.
And right now, I think everybody that holds a championship should be the ones holding the championships.
Right.
But eventually, you now have to take those belts off somebody. I think going into Revolution, I think Wardlow's going to win that championship again.
Okay.
And then Wardlow will be a made guy. Joe can go off now and then help build what is going to become ROH television now, because I think you need established people there.
Yes.
There's a reason why Joe and Claudio are there. There's a reason why they're champions. Now you have to establish what they were doing. And I think Tony had to course correct a lot. Remember, he had Forbidden Door and he had a Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Right.
So now what's happening is you're forgetting all the storylines that you're building for Double or Nothing.
Right.
and you're focusing on this, and now the crowd is getting confused on what are we supposed to pay attention to.
Yeah, the
Like,
shiny. There's always a shiny new toy in AEW.
right. Then you have Jay White cutting a promo. Okada comes out cutting a promo. Hangman wants to wrestle them both. All right, we're gonna make it a triple threat match at All Out. Bing at Forbidden Door. Bing boom boom. Oh, what's going on? What is so confusing here? Then you have like the entire card there. It's gonna be like, MJF, Wardlow.
The mystery person.
The mystery person.
Yes.
Then we're gonna
Yeah.
do this thing where Wardlow goes home, where MJF goes home, and now we don't know if he's gonna show up, and we work everybody, and it's
you got Sting teaming with all these dudes from New Japan, man. You got all these dudes.
And it's just like, okay, I understand what you want to do, but just flesh it out. And then WWE was also the same way too, where if something's not working, they're moving on, and you're forgetting about it. Ric Flair knocked up Lacey Evans. We never heard about it again. That was
thank God.
That was the storyline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and now you don't know whether or not she's a Southern Belle, she's a Xena warrior princess, or she's like John Cena light. You don't know what she's like. 1 minute she's a soldier, next minute she's a Southern Belle, next minute who knows?
Right. Yeah.
So like we don't know what they're doing, and then like all the Bray Wyatt stuff, it's confusing, and it's like. Who does he help? And is it like one of those things? And it's like, well, how are they trying to tell the story? So like, like you said, not everything's going to be perfect.
Right.
But just give me, for both shows, consistency. Make it make sense.
Exactly.
Give me a coherency where I know everything is going to plug into each other, right? Like, why do you air those Book of Hobbs vignettes, but then we haven't seen Will Hobbs on television?
Right. Yeah.
Talk to him.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you have in Will Hobbs is special because again, you have an incredible roster of new talent that was never picked up from the competition. Your eye, what you seen and what you liked in a guy like Will Hobbs and a team like the Acclaim, as I like to call them, the patron saints of dark. If you go back and you watch all their dark stuff, they were the ones that were holding dark down.
Yep.
Yeah, they were 100%.
And they come here, and organically the Acclaim gets over. I think it's a little bit part to do with like, Danhausen calling the Guns daddy ass and ass boys. And I think that helped as well because Danhausen has a Midas touch. But then, the smarts of Tony and Caster and Bowens and daddy ass is like, all right, let's run with this. Let's make this a thing. They haven't really done that with Hobbs. You haven't given Hobbs an opportunity. You're telling his story in dribs and drabs and vignettes, but you're not seeing him wrestle. Like the last time I was vested in a Will Hobbs match was that big ass Haas match at Full Gear.
Right.
Where it was like where it was Hobbs, Joe, was it Wardlow? I think
Wardlow,
right?
Wardlow.
And it's like, ooh, okay, this is where you could have started to build Hobbs to be a guy, right? Like even if you wanted to make him beat like, mid-card, lower tier talent and let him go on this like undefeated streak to challenge for the TNT championship, which is the worker championship. I don't need to see MJF defend the belt. As long as MJF is on TV with the belt, we're good. But make his story make sense too. Yeah. Where he's going to go against Danielson. But in terms of that TNT championship, that should be defended weekly, either in an open challenge or either in a storyline. Now I get it. They and it was smart the way they did it. Joe beats Wardlow. Joe is now the king of television. Joey 2 times, right? He has 2 belts. Then he gets beat by Darby. They're going around for a little while, for about, 6 weeks, 10 weeks. Darby's crushing it, doing all, he's wrestling, and he's wrestling everybody. Then they have this incredible rematch, right? Darby loses. Now Joe becomes this 2-time, TNT champion. And what they've been doing with Joe, really good booking, consistent, smart booking. Yeah. Give me that with Hobbs.
Right.
Give me that with Hobbs. If you can do that and make him show that he's dominant, man, brother should never leave his feet. Should never leave his feet.
Nope.
Yeah.
Spear them, hit them with the spine buster, make their spines become Play-Doh and call it a day.
Yep.
Right. And I think that like one of the things that, about this era is back in the day, you were on a journey with a wrestler. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that anytime something happens organic, you got to go with it. So my example is like with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Shawn Michaels, the Rockers in the 80s were, for all intents and purposes, a jobber tag team.
Damn, the Marty Jannetty slander on these streets.
It's so real, man.
In WWE, they were. The Hart Foundation were good, but then you got to see them climb levels. And by the time they became world champ, it was like, okay, it wasn't just them that earned it. It was the audience that earned that run with them. And I think what Ricky Starks, like, there's too many guys in WWE and AEW that I'm being told this is the guy. And that kind of turns me off a little bit. Like Austin Theory, for example.
I knew it. I knew you were going there.
No offense to him, but it's like every time I watch WWE, it feels like they are telling me, right, this is the guy. Ricky
well, you know Starks, why that, but you know why that is, though. It's done by design. Like you speak about Shawn Michaels, right? He went from AWA jobber tag team, like you say, with the Rockers in WWE. Fine. I won't argue that. But what happens in 1992?
Yeah, that thing.
What happens in 1992, right? And then, but now look at the timeline from 92 to 95. You're giving Shawn Michaels how many years to develop the Shawn Michaels Heartbreak Kid character? So by the time 96, 97 rolls around, he has it perfected. He's the top guy. You have him and Brett. They're going back and forth. Austin's starting to bubble now. There's a difference between now and then.
Right.
What happens is now sometimes a lot of these bookers or these owners of these companies book for the pop. Right. And they know that their audience has the attention spans of fruit flies. And will go on Twitter.
Right.
And then their thumbs will get real angry about booking things that they have no knowledge of knowing. And saying this one should be the next, or this one should be this.
Yeah.
Right. If you build organically, naturally, you're going to see dividends pay off in the long run.
Right.
Which is why you have to do it with your guys. They did it with Britt Baker. They're doing it with Jade. Yeah. You're seeing it in real time with Jade. There's a reason why.
Right.
Excuse me. There's a reason why you're keeping Jade away from the D&D when she was world champion.
Right.
And Jamie Hayter.
Yeah. Because like my whole thing too is like I didn't even know I needed a Ricky Starks main event run until that promo he cut. The same kind of thing with Kofi Kingston. It's like I was like, my God, man, what?
Right, but Kris, can you rush the process though?
You can't rush the process, but I have to feel like it's happening. I have to,
and that's the problem.
Feel like
right, and I agree with you with that because you have to feel like it's happening, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Why were we getting weeks of Bobby and Brock, and then Brock gets eliminated by Bobby at the Rumble? Brock's coming in and is the reason why he's not United States champion. They have two matches. It was looking like, if you were to read the tea leaves, they were going to have the rubber match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Now you don't. Now that do plans change? Does Brock pull his red and yellow card and be like, no, I want to work
Brock heard that break. Brock heard that break thing. It was like, that does not work for me, brother. I'm sorry.
That's exactly what happened, yo.
You know, and so it's like that. Like, you know, so what happens is like you tell this incredible story for months on end, sometimes going back a year or two with certain references, and then it's forgotten about.
Yep.
And it's like, ooh. Okay, so you can invest in this bloodline thing, and it's crushing. People are in and out of, and they're playing it too long now with hardened criminal Dominic Mysterio and Ray.
Right, yeah.
Listen, the kid's kid's fresh out of up north. He's trying to reassociate with life on the streets. He's stepping to Papa. But again, there has been no payoff to the point to build. Now, listen, you got 5 weeks left till WrestleMania.
Right.
Obviously, it's going to happen. But it's like, what are you doing? Now, if we pull back the lens, we can see what's really happening is, and I don't know if you can give them credit for this, or maybe it's just the crowd or how good of a performer she is, but Rhea Ripley has really stood out during this whole entire thing. So if you remove the lens of Dominic and Rey Mysterio and you just focus on her, when Rey and Escobar had their brief, really dope interaction, and then Escobar turns around to really looks like he was going to belt Dominic. Mommy's in there, and she goes into his face, and she's looking around now, and she blows him a kiss, and that infuriates him. He, like, you know what I mean, like, you know, and then they go off and whatever, and then you get the thing at the end with Rey and Dominic where he hasn't struck him yet. But again, it's like, if you could tell those stories, then you can invest in this. If you can give me the story between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, which to me is the greatest story told in AEW history at this current juncture for that world championship, when they faced off and Kenny had an incredible run as AEW champion. And I don't think people give Kenny his flowers for how good he was during
that
that
man was like 50%. Bro, that whole run, Omega was like 50% healthy,
and
this
he was
man
great at it.
Going around, what did he have? He had vertigo when he was doing the title. But you know how insane that is to have vertigo while you're wrestling, bro. The woman's basically, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, that's
I had a double ear infection. I laid in bed for 2 days. I don't know how that guy's doing a tope suicida.
For real, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
so to me, Kenny's that dude, man. But they told a really good story. So if they can do that with their mid card guys to build them up, because if you look across the board, there's no who's the next, like who's facing Cody once Cody dethrones the tribal chief, right?
And that's
okay. Hold on, Kris. Hold on, because we are running short on time. Because we appreciate Emilio for swinging through this week. But we gonna each get one last question for the brother. And Emilio, without even knowing, again, Emilio, much like Andrew on his John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas, Trae Young grind right now, threw up the assist. One of the people we talk about a lot on this show. He might not be a black wrestler, Emilio, but he is certainly in touch with the community. I'm talking about the man that stepped in an AEW ring and ended racism as we know it in the continental United States, brother. Cody Devontae Rhodes. We're talking about this man, the son of a plumber. And he's got a story to finish, Emilio. So my final question to you, brother, is a question that you just kind of brought up. So the story should end with Cody in the middle of the ring, holding the title his daddy could never win. But then what's next? So what are your thoughts about the build that they've had so far? I think they've done a great job kind of making Cody Teflon in a difficult situation with how popular Sami Zayn's gotten off of this bloodline story. So what are your thoughts on the build? And I got here, Cody Devontae Rhodes, brother.
I like Cody Devontae. I think he's an incredible Nubian king. All those pictures of those Photoshop pictures of him in the middle of like the civil rights movement.
Yes.
Malcolm X and stuff.
It's really funny, man. It is really funny. But in all seriousness, I think what they've been doing is smart, and it's tough because it was scary. If you're talking about that Monday promo right after the Chamber, he could have got booed out of the arena
in Canada.
His pop was just as big as Sami Zayn's. So that just goes to show how over Cody Rhodes is. And how they set up his storyline was he had unfinished business to do in WWE. And one of the things was like you said, Nate, was to win that championship that his father never held. But then also, there's more than one royal family in professional wrestling. And I think that's where they go with it now, because it started with Paul Heyman and him, and they're cutting that promo, and Heyman mentions his dad and this, but he talked about Roman Reigns. And I think that was a smart play too, because it was like, oh, okay, my dad liked him. Okay, cool. I got to prove that my dad also groomed me. He just didn't groom. He just didn't groom Roman. You know, in that NXT, in the PC, and I think how they did it, it plays off really, really well.
Right.
And I think what happens is he wins. You know, fireworks, pomp and circumstance. And I think Jay White is his next guy. I think Jay White's the test. If Jay White does sign, you know, because there are rumors out there, and if Jay White signs, he could be the, no pun intended, the catalyst to face Cody Rhodes, because Roman goes off TV and takes a much needed break, becomes a part-time guy, you know, and then you can continue doing this bloodline thing with Sammy and Kevin and the Usos, and you don't know where that's going to go. So you can let that continue to do its own thing. And then maybe he has to come back after several months off to reassess the family and rebuild the family and bring it back up to where they were. And then he can challenge again to whoever the champion is. So I think Jay White is the perfect guy for that, because WWE's main event picture, there is nobody. They have nobody. They have nobody. Jay can come in because he's a two-time IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So he's already a made guy. You know what I mean? Not many gaijin, not many professional wrestlers could say that they have won that championship. He is one of a select few that can say that, you know, especially in WWE. You had Kurt Angle, you had Brock Lesnar, you had Shinsuke Nakamura, you had AJ Styles up until this point. So like that's a class of 4.
Right.
Okay. That's important.
Bro, I'm about to say Emilio, and then on top of that, the way he was presented in New Japan, like the dude was like, he was like one of their guys, like absolutely, and at one point was their guy, like right with Okada and Rizzo with Tanahashi, and like he was the dude.
And Jay's there, and he's barely 30 years old, and he knows how to talk.
Yes, bro.
He's never really have had any type of sort of injury. He is very good at what he does. He wrestles a very great indicative style to WWE.
That style, that WWE style.
I think he fits the company protocol. I think he fits the mold, and I think people are absolutely going to fall in love with him when they actually see him do what he is going to do on a larger American television. And you're going to hate him because he's good at making you hate him. And everybody needs a foil, and that's going to be his for a while. Right. And I think that's a smart way to indoctrinate him into the company. Now, whether or not he wins or loses is inconsequential. I don't care about that. I just want you to introduce him the right way, give this the time and attention that it needs, keep him serious, treat him as a big star, because they really don't do that with a lot of New Japan talent that come over. Right. So if you can do that, and if the planets can align that way, and you can really believe in him, then he's going to give you weeks and months of excellent television leading up to, I would love to see it at SummerSlam.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
A dream. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Kris, I love it. Devontae King switch. Let's go. But Kris, I was gonna pivot to you because again, I'm trying to be mindful. It's a new year, man. It's still a new year, so I'm trying to be better at keeping track of the show times. But Kris, what you got for Emilio, man? What's your last question for the brother?
Okay, we'll talk about the Ariel Helwani
because we're definitely gonna do a part 2. Like let's not mince words.
I'll come back on for sure. I'll come back.
We're running this back.
But one of my dream scenarios, and you guys can tell me if you like this, but I think if Roman loses at WrestleMania, and I'm still not 100% convinced that's happening, but if he does,
stop hating.
That's not hating. It's just
no. It makes sense. No, that makes sense. They might want to break Red and Yellow's 1474 day streak.
Yeah, I could see that. But I was wondering, like, I would like a scenario where Tama Tonga, the day after WrestleMania, like the bloodline turn on Roman and like beat his ass to give him his much needed vacation, and forms a new faction with the remaining bloodline members, you know. What do you think of that? How realistic do you think that is of happening?
I mean, do we have to start to lump in every person of Pacific Island blood?
That's what I was about to say.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
would it be incredibly cool that Tama Tonga could come in
Well,
and do
it ties into
it
his
does.
personality.
It does.
Yeah.
I think, you know, he was the de facto leader of the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
To a degree when they broke off and had that civil war between, you know, Bullet Club OGs and then like Bullet Club Elite. I thought that was really cool. I think Tama is prime and ready as well. I think he has the look. I think he can cut a promo. And again, he's another one that wrestles that really indicative WWE-esque pace where he's really, really good. But I think he also, there's a lot of unfinished business with Tama at New Japan too. I think he could be IWGP World Heavyweight Champion.
Easily.
Do I see him coming here? Oh man, I would love to see Tama in a WWE ring. I would love to see Hikuleo, his little brother, come in, and I would love to see Tama have Hikuleo as his heater. And because Hikuleo's so cool, man, the way he comes into that ring, it really doesn't have to say much, but choke slam your ass through the ring. He's great. But yeah, I think something like that could be cool. And then it's like Roman comes back and he already has a solidified dance partner. But again, that's really cool. What if storytelling and really cool. What if booking, if they're allowed to come in and do this, will they give these individuals time? That's always the thing. Will they give them time?
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't know because, you know, it ebbs and flows with who's going to be the guy. It's a revolving door there outside of Roman, because he's in that class of like Cena and like Austin and Rocky. He's that guy. And I think now Cody's becoming into that rarefied air as well. But for the most part, when you have that special 1%, you want to keep them your top guy. But for the rest of it, it's like a revolving door. It's like Disney.
Right.
Nobody's bigger than Mickey Mouse. You go to Disney because you want to see the attractions. You want to see the castles. But man, what are you wearing? You're wearing the mouse ears, and you're going. Nobody's bigger than them. You don't become bigger than the mouse.
Acknowledge me.
And I think And I think the company is the same way. You don't get bigger than the company. You're just going to be the revolving door that we choose you to be. Because for a little while, they were doing that with Charlotte and Becky and Sasha as well, where the women were becoming the big deal and the guys took a step back. So in that regard, I think because SmackDown's going to need something. And I think what better way, Kris, like you say, what better way to bring in some new blood with Tama and Hikuleo? I would love to see it because I think they're really talented.
With Tama, like for me, I think him being in WWE, like I think he would have a good run there. But like what he's doing in New Japan right now, I feel like he's like just now starting to become like I feel like he's really starting to find his footing as a strictly solo talent. Like especially him having this never open weight championship run. Like I know he just had a great match with El Phantasmo and New Beginning in Osaka. And then back in January, I did not think that match with Carl Anderson was going to be like as good as it was. Like they shocked the hell out of me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
hey, listen, you got Carl Anderson to bump. Carl Anderson don't bump for shit. So if you can get Carl Anderson to bump, you getting Carl Anderson to bump. You're doing something. So, but that also is a testament to how good Carl Anderson is as a professional wrestler and how good him and Tama connect. You know what I mean? For like they told a really good story with Chad Machine Gun not really being there as often as he was, and they were telling the story on social media via Twitter and Instagram, and it was done very well. And I don't think, you're right, Tama doesn't get his flowers, and he should, because he's very good, and he's been consistent there for many years.
So, right, yeah.
Yes.
And besides, the God theme song just hits. That theme song just
Hey, Emilio, I think one of the cool things about Tama that he, like when you talk about people that don't get their flowers, I really appreciate wrestlers that can sort of like take their character sort of in a different direction and keep it relevant in a way. And like I feel like with Tama, like even him switching, like I think Tama was great as a heel. I really do. Yeah, but like he started morphing into like that baby face role. Like he's doing like a really great job in this position, and just by doing the basic thing, he's just going out there and just having great matches, and that's it.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like that's the thing, right? So if you are good at the thing that you do, people are going to like you,
right? Yeah.
At its simplest form, that is it. If you are good at what you do, people are going to like you.
All right. I have to go. But
I got one question for you though, real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay. Should should have Dwayne Wade stayed with Keanu, or should he have actually did the whole "baby please" moment with Whitley, since you're wearing the different world t-shirt? Because let's be real, the final season. Let's be real, the final season of A Different World. Boom, it wasn't so good. But that moment where it's like "baby please," and then like they embrace, and it's like woo. Should he have stayed with Keanu though?
Dwayne Wayne was a fuck boy to Whitney.
Wow. You doing this to Dwayne Wade, man.
She had moved on with Papa Pope.
Wow.
She had moved on with Byron.
Come on, man.
Moved on, and he was playing so many games with that woman. And then when once he sees that she's happy and with someone else, now he's wanting to like break up the marriage and shit, man. If he did that shit at my wedding, man, he'd be seeing my family members, man.
And then Byron's responsible for Skynet, which sets off the trend of Terminator 2. So
right,
it was you blame Dwayne Wade,
I blame Dwayne Wade.
He pulled bitches though. He pulled bitches.
Dude,
it was the flip glasses and Jordans.
Glasses.
Yeah,
it was the Jordans too, because his sneaker game was always good.
Dwayne Wade was swimming, man. I'll
like
say
Denise
that.
Huxtable. Come on, man.
Yeah, he got
Whitley Gilbert.
Yeah.
Keanu was it though, bro. Keanu was it.
Oh yeah, she was she was a Japanese one, right?
She was Japanese and black.
That's when he went to
Japanese
work for what was the game company? It was like something Industries.
Hakatashi or something.
Hakatashi Industry.
Yeah, it was something. It was something, but he was great.
Different world.
Talk about A Different World all day though. So
that's gonna be on the next episode.
We when I was on your show, we were talking about My Two Dads, man. We really got to do some like.
Well, here's the deal with Wrestle Rap. It's just we don't want to talk about wrestling.
Let's talk about homeboys from outer space.
Let's talk about if you imagine Vince McMahon, you walk into his office and he's watching A Different World, and he's like, he should have stayed with Kato.
But yeah, Kris.
Why was Marissa Tomei in this?
Marissa Tomei. People forget that's what she got her big break.
Marissa.
That cast was amazing, man. Kris Summer, still love Kris Summer to this day. To this day.
I mean, listen, I loved it. I once Jada Pinkett like did the Lena character. I was out on the New Class. That was their version of Saved by the Bell, the New Class.
Yep.
And I liked but I thought they could have done if they would have woven the story a little bit better. I thought those new cats with Bumper Robinson and
it was such a progressive television show. They talked about the epidemiology of AIDS.
Tisha
nobody
Campbell.
Else was.
Yeah, and Whoopi Goldberg on that episode.
They were fantastic with that. They talked about racism. That episode with Dean Cain, and when they all got locked up at the fight.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, when they spray painted dude's car with the NI.
They pulled a Hogan.
Terry Bollea was out there with him.
Literally, Terry Bollea was out there. He was like, give me that. I'll show you how to spray paint, brother. You gotta have can control. What you gonna do?
Whenever I hear Dean Cain, bro, the first thing I think about is the dude that played him in How High. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time. Every time I hear Dean Cain, like that is the first thing that comes to my mind.
You don't think it's Superman?
I don't think it's Superman.
I don't think but it's How High. I'm telling you.
Man, this was fun, man. You guys were great. I appreciate you guys coming in and letting me just talk shit.
Thanks for being here. Later, my dudes. Y'all are my brothers.
Yes, you can find Kris at KMEZ Does It on Twitter. So send the brother some love, send the brother some hate. He's here for all the smoke.
Are you going to be at WrestleMania this year? Are you doing WrestleMania stuff this year, Emilio?
Wale Mania, brother.
All right, so I bought my tickets to Wale Mania, man.
Good, because we weren't copping anybody.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, come on, man. I know how
you want to play. You got to pay, brother.
Everybody's got to pay their own way. Like what did those gang members say to Denzel at the end of training day?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Everybody's got to put in their own work.
To quote Rocky 1 when he's on the pier and he takes the guy wants to give him his coat. He's like, "You want to dance? You got to pay the band. You want to play? You got to pay the band." So it's like, Kris wants to pull up to Wale Mania. He's got to pay the band because
I got my tickets. Just
I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Just don't. I'll be the guy with the cane.
I'll pull you on stage, bro. You want to come hang out on stage? We'll come out on stage. You can.
All right, cool shit. Yeah, my
you heard it here.
There with you too. All right,
easy.
I'll catch you Kites later. Got your number.
Later, Kris.
I'll catch you guys. Y'all are my brothers. Love you all. Peace. Yo.
Love you, brother. Peace.
Later. Kris Ealy, y'all, the professor. But so yeah, we gonna wrap up real quick with Emilio. We appreciate him for giving the time to us this week. Andrew, any final questions or thoughts for the good brother Emilio Sparks, man?
Nah, man, it was just good having him on, man. It's great talking to you. Always a pleasure to have a guest on to come chat with us, man. Like for real, like I think a great way to just like in the show would be have Emilio just promote Wale Mania, man. Like that's coming up. We got 5 more weeks until the show comes up. I know that's 5. Well, not even that for real. Like we had 4 weeks more for real. But yeah, we got. I know I saw Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams. The lights of the unretired Faye Jackson is back, man.
Yes, Queen
Faye Jackson back, man. And I know I'm pretty sure it's gonna be plenty more, man. Plenty more.
Yeah. So this week
talk to him, Emilio.
If you check out Wale's social media at Wale, at Kazim, at Emilio Sparks, we are going to announce the second wave of guests coming to Wale Mania, and Wale Mania is Thursday, March 30th in Los Angeles at the N.W.A. So it's a really dope event. It is, let's see, I have to push this up. It is 800 W Olympic Boulevard in Los Angeles, California. So come and hang out. This is number 7 for us. We've done this a whole bunch of times, and FOMO is real. If you don't come to this, you will have to wait a full calendar year to Philadelphia. And you might not like that because we have some shit planned. I can't say more than that, but we got some shit. So
yes,
come hang out, come buy some tickets.
Definitely. On that point, Emilio, like I'm at the point, in my life, I've crossed that threshold over that 40 yard line, if you will. I don't miss a lot of things that I see on TV. Like I can watch it from home, man. It's cool.
I mean, I work with the company. I lived out of a suitcase. I get it.
but I will say the time in recent memory that I'm like, damn, I missed out was the Wale Mania that weekend during Kofi Mania. Brother, because just seeing whether it was performers or people I knew in terms of journalists and like it just felt like a spiritual thing, not to overstate it, but like, damn.
Listen, man, I knew we had that crowd salivating the moment Kaz and I walked out, and it was last time that I checked by Nipsey Hussle was our walkout music.
Yes. And
that crowd just went insane, and we had them from the start till the finish. Plus, you're getting like a 90-minute Wale performance with guests, with surprise guests that are going to come in and do some songs. Man, Wale Mania. This is a home game one too. We did the one in Dallas. We crushed Dallas, but man, Dallas was an away game. New York was home. Dallas was away. Los Angeles is a home game. You best believe that one. So
y'all heard it here first. Emilio Sparks, producer extraordinaire. But yeah, real quick before we get out of here, I do just want to take one moment because we are not only wrapping up this show, but we're wrapping up Black History Month. But Black History is forever, 24/7, 365. Take some time, man. If you are interested in some of the stars of this business, if you're interested in some of the pioneers in pro wrestling, we talked about a lot of current cats, the Big E's of the world, the Ricky Starks of the world, the Powerhouse Hobbs of the world, but there was people that opened doors for them. And so one of the books I want to highlight is The Black Stars of Professional Wrestling by the late Julian Shabazz, who was somebody, ironically enough, Andrew, that was supposed to be me and Kris's first guest on the N.W.A. podcast back on the Patreon. And because of scheduling and time and just being busy and, CPT is real, like we never got around to having the doctor on, and then he passed. But like the amount of research that's in the book. I think if you're a fan of pro wrestling and a fan of, black wrestlers, Bearcat Wright is the graphic for this month's episode. Like, there's so many stories of performers that you might have known or you might have heard your parents or your grandparents talk about, but man, I was gonna say it wasn't easy being a black wrestler, but honestly, has it ever been easy being a person of color or other than in this country, in this world? But some of these stories from people like Thunderbolt Patterson or just so many names, it's like, damn. Like, if you're a fan of what we're watching today, take some time this month or any month, quite frankly, and do some research, man. Educate yourself and just understand that folks are standing on the shoulders of giants. There's a lot of men and women that paved the way for the great performers that we're able to watch today. So that's my little Black History message, y'all.
Amen, man. 100%.
That's great, brother Nate. Great to hear that, man. What's the name of that book that you said again?
So the book, this book in particular, like, there's a lot of books you can check out in terms of this topic, but the book in particular I'm talking about is The Black Stars of Professional Wrestling by Julian Shabazz. I believe John Pollock here at Post Wrestling did an interview with Dr. Shabazz a few years ago when the book first came out. So you might check that out either in the Post Wrestling archives or the archives of the if you know somebody that's got them archives from those outlaw days at their previous stop, you might be able to check out that interview. But yeah, I just wanted to say that real quick. But we are out of time, and we do want to thank our special guest, Emilio Sparks. Emilio, you done promoted Wale Mania, you done promoted a lot of things, but promote yourself, man, because we appreciate you coming through. And again, Andrew Thompson is one of the greatest newsmen in the world. He had like 20 stories that we was going to talk about tonight. We talked about maybe a half of one because the conversation just flowed, man.
Right.
So tell these people what you got going on, Emilio, and next time you come on, we might just have to talk Robert Townsend movies for the whole 90 minutes.
I could do that with ease, man. All right, so real quick, Twitter and Instagram at Emilio Sparks, EMILIOSPARKS. I'm also on Hive. I don't think anybody uses that anymore. We all thought that Twitter was going to crash. So you can hit me up on there. I did have a moment, but I was on there. So you can follow me on all the socials. I'm also on TikTok. It's just a blank page because I don't get TikTok. I'm old as fuck, so I don't understand TikTok. So follow me on everything. EMILIOSPARKS. Wrestle Rap, WRASSLERAP, Twitter and Instagram. We have a podcast. Search it. It's very good. It's hosted by me and the Mighty Vin. We talk everything about pro wrestling and pop culture. Why? Because it's a fun podcast, and you will like us because we don't really do anything else with our time but talk about wrestling. I'm also the producer of the sessions with Renee Paquette. So if you can kindly do so, give that a follow and a listen as well, and write a review. We would love to have that. I also produce Juan Ep, which is the OG hip hop podcast, hosted by Peter Rosenberg and DJ Cypher Sound. So you can check out those things. Everything has a YouTube. Wrestle Rap has a YouTube. Renee has a YouTube. Juan Ep has a YouTube. So go and support all these platforms because this is how I make the monies. So if you like what I do and you like how I sound and you thought I had some semblance of education and some semblance of thought, and you want to hear what I do on these other shows and how I produce these other shows, hey, if you do that, right, you help me pay my bills. So God bless you. I'll give you a little kiss on the forehead I'll give you a little kiss on the forehead when I see you at Wale Mania.
That good man, Emilio Sparks. And yeah, before we turn it to Andrew, my one interaction with the good brother Peter Rosenberg was Brian Mann and I did an episode of Keep It 2000, which was a show.
Brian is great, dude, bro.
I love Brian Mann. We got to get Brian Mann on this show one
He's
time.
Incredible.
We did a episode of Keep It 2000, which was our review of WCW Nitro from the year 2000.
Wow.
And Rosenberg came on, and it was just hilarious. Brian and I have been watching these episodes like back to back every month, and Rosenberg has just popped into a random WCW Nitro episode, and he couldn't follow what the hell was going on.
I mean, like many of us, we couldn't follow what was going on, man. But Rosenberg is so good. He's a complete he's a complete broadcaster.
Yeah.
Like he can go anywhere, he can do anything, and he can talk to anybody. Rosenberg he's fantastic at what he does. I love Peter. I think he's a great guy.
Yeah. No doubt, no doubt. You know who else is a great guy? The youngest in charge, Andrew Thompson, who probably has a TikTok because he ain't nothing but 22, y'all. Nephew. Where can people find you on social media, find all your stories, and check out your great interviews, brother?
Well, unmute yourself first.
Did Terry Bollea mute you, Andrew?
They muted me.
I wouldn't do that to you, man. Not in February, Andrew.
But you can follow me on Twitter at AD Thompson __. Same thing on Instagram. Check out my interviews at the Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel. I just put one up, I think a week ago with Ryan Loader, who's an MMA fighter. Who talked about his UFC aspirations, so that was cool to do. Got another interview up there with Brandon Turner. Try to do a little bit of different stuff on the channel. Brandon Turner, who was a very famous skateboarder in the 90s. You know, he found his way. You know, he had some little troubles there along the way, man, but he eventually found his path, and now he's running a couple of mental health centers out in California, doing a real great job for himself. And cool. Doing some real cool stuff on the channel. And also you can check out my written work, of course, always at postwrestling.com.
That's my nephew, the youngest in charge, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Thompson. For me, check me out on Twitter at N.W.A MOZAIK. There you can find links to all of the shows that I do. Of course, we got the Kings of Sport podcast, which Andrew has been a part of before. We actually have put up 2 episodes this year, Andrew, which is a small miracle. You know, just I uploaded the episode the other day, and it was like, damn, I ain't put out nothing since December, and it's just work, y'all, work.
I know. I get it.
So we've got a review of the Royal Rumble is up now on the Kings of Sport feed, as well as a week or so ago we did our Super Bowl recap with SP3 and Rich Fans. So that was a lot of fun. But we're trying. I'm trying to get back in the swing of things with the Kings of Sport. So expect more to come from that. Anybody listening, if you are a podcaster or a writer or an editor, I desperately need an editor. I'm you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put this out there into the universe. If you good on the if you are as good with your editing skills as Emilio Sparks is with his production skills, holla at your boy, because I need an editor. Because there's one thing, like Emilio, I can talk to anybody any night of the week, right. But then it's like, damn, now I gotta edit this damn show. This show ain't dropping until 3 months from now. Which is why I'm expensive. Know your worth. Know your worth. But yeah, so Kings of Sport, we got a patreon.com/Kings of Sport. $5 gets you in the door. I know it's tax time. Y'all got a little jingle in that jangle. Go ahead and show your boys some love. Patreon.com/Kings of Sport. I'm also here at Post Wrestling with the NWA Podcast with Kris and Andrew, but also the Rocky Maivia Picture Show, which is my review show, reviewing the movies of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Black Adam episode, I know I keep teasing this, Andrew. I said it was going to be January, then I said February. It's going to be out before the summer, is how I just say it now. I feel like Dre making Detox. The Black Adam episode is going to be out sometime, maybe next month, you know. Just depends, but it's going to be a fun one because I've got thoughts on that movie, Black Adam. DC TV podcast, I'm part of the Lituation Room. We just being black and nerdy, talking about superhero shit. Check that out. But for everything else, at N the number 8 MOZAIK at Nate Mosaic. And that is going to bring it into this show. Shout out to John Pollock and Wade Ting for offering up the platform. Shout out to Righteous Reg, who hit us with a banger of a theme song. Shout out to everybody who is watching this and listening to this in the future, because again, as I said off the top, the show was too hot with Emilio Sparks. We couldn't do it live. There were FCC implications if we went live with this one, but we appreciate all the support, and we'll do it again in March. So for Kris, for Andrew, and for our very special guest, Emilio Sparks, I am the Godfather, Nate Milton. And remember, the revolution may not be televised, but it damn sure will be podcasted. See y'all next time.
Yo, it's Righteous Reg. It's a case for the safe, keep a space for the Nubians. Unfiltered, off kilter, the professor, the Godfather. Post wrestling, the N.W.A. Not keep guessing, The views and expressions, you know the rest. It's pod excellence, get the message. Advocates for Nubian wrestling, you're listening to the best again. Black wrestling in the ring we invested in. Nubian kings and queens we invested in. It's for the culture and we reppin' it. It's for the culture and we reppin' it.